Hello everyone, my name is Eileen Flores, and today my group and I, which is group 2, will be talking about our undergraduate work, in this case our research project, that is called An Induction to Action Research through the Enhancement of Seminar 2 students' ability to write the statement of the problem during semester 2 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador. This research project will be presented by Jennifer Marisol Martínez, Kevin Jose Ramírez, Hugo Alexander Solis Castro, Kevin Edgardo Solis Flores, and I, Eileen Flores. I will be talking about Chapter 1, Statement of the Problem. And to begin with this chapter, we have to say that fifth-year students of Licenciatura en Idioma Inglés Opción Enseñanza at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente, are required to take Seminar 2 in the first semester. Besides that, they are expected to elaborate and carry out an action research project throughout the semester. They are asked to present weekly the chapters that they have worked in groups. According to McNiff and Whitehead 2006, action research is a form of inquiry that enables practitioners to investigate and evaluate their work by asking themselves, what am I doing? What do I need to improve? How do I improve it? And herein lies the importance and at the same time the difficulty of this process, particularly for Seminar 2 students who have not had enough exposure to this procedure. Moving on to 1.1, description of the problem. To conduct the research work, an induction to action research through the enhancement of Seminar 2 students' ability to write the statement of the problem at Universidad del Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente, it was very necessary and essential to verify the phenomenon of this study. Therefore, researchers conducted an online survey and asked some students that were taking Seminar 1 and some other students that had already taken seminars in order to gather as much information as possible to describe the issue. After contrasting all the information collected, it was now possible for researchers to describe and tabulate the information as follows. Through surveys, it was observable that even though students had already begun writing their research projects, the 90% of the students did not have enough knowledge about writing and action research. For example, none of them knew how to write a hypothesis of action. As a result, they could not write one. And some others did not know how to elaborate a plan of action, leading them nowhere, as it is the skeleton of our research project. Besides, according to some Seminar 1 students from previous years, the elaboration of an action research was problematic at some point, because the difficulty did not lie on the lack of experience doing research, but on the lack of knowledge on the type of research, as they needed a clear explanation of what an action research was, how to elaborate it step by step in order to do it in a better way. For students, the elaboration of the statement of the problem is very difficult for them because they have lots of doubts regarding to the parts that the chapter contains, because a different approach must be applied. Also, action research is hard to write because students were accustomed to describing problems rather than looking for and providing solutions to the problem. Therefore, an induction to action research could help students achieve not only their academic needs but also their life goals through action research. Students and teachers identify a problem they observe to analyze it and later on provide a solution. That is why researchers considered if it was implemented with Seminar 1 students, not only their knowledge but also their ability to write the first chapter of an action research would be improved. Being this phenomenon observed and considered, the research questions to be answered at the end of this research study are the following. A. How can Seminar 2 students enhance their ability to write the statement of the problem of action research projects during Semester 2 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente? B. How can Seminar 2 students strengthen their capacity to describe the action research problem during Semester 2 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente? C. How can Seminar 2 students boost their performance on writing action research objectives during Semester 2 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente? D. How can Seminar 2 students improve their ability to build action research hypothesis during semester 2, 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente? Now, moving on to point 1.2, the objectives. And the general objective is to enhance Seminar 2 students' ability to write the statement of the problem of action research projects during semester 2, 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente.
The specific objectives are, first, to strengthen Seminar 2 students' capacity to describe the action research problem during semester 2, 2020 at Universidad El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente. Second, to boost Seminar 2 students' performance on writing the action research objectives during semester 2, 2020 at Universidad El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente. And third, to improve Seminar 2 students' ability to build action research hypothesis during semester 2, 2020 at Universidad El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente. The hypothesis of action. The hypothesis of this action research study is the implementation of an induction to action research can help students to enhance their ability to write the statement of the problem during semester 2, 2020 at Universidad El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente.
This study is worthy to be carried out because it will help researchers enhance Seminar 2 students' ability to write action research projects, especially in the construction of the statement of the problem. Seminar 2 students face problems when carrying out action research. They have doubts about whether the things they do are right or wrong regarding the statement of the problem. Hence, through an intervention named Induction to Action Research, the students' comprehension of action research will be interpreted, as well as the improvement of the action research writing. Because of that, this study is convenient to be done, as it pretends to encompass deterrents that affect the students' proficiency when conducting action researches. Moreover, in this research project, it will be tested if an induction to action research is profitable to empower students to build up the statement of the problem of an action research project. First, it will help students strengthen their capacity to not only describe but also state the action research problem. Second, it will help students boost their performance when writing action research objectives. Third, it will help students build the action research hypothesis. Finally, in this research study, some insights will be provided to both teachers and students as a guide to write action research projects, especially the statement of the problem step by step. In addition, future researchers will be provided with recommendations to do further research on this issue.
To keep on with this research presentation, I'm going to go over the state of art, which is based on the first chapter of an action research, the statement of the problem. To start, I'm going to talk about the variables that researchers observe and describe and the difficulties that students present when constructing the statement of the problem. The statement of the problem is the section in which the research problem is identified and delineated. It means the researcher expresses what he wants to solve. As stated by Grasso 2012, students get stuck when they are required to choose their problem, for they do not have an idea if what they will propose is right or wrong. At the University of El Salvador, this problem has been present for some years, as stated by Sosa 2020. She expresses how students tend to select problems way too broad or problems which are not significant enough to investigate at their fullest. On the other hand, the description of the problem is the transformation of a generalized problem into a target well-defined problem so that it can be resolved through focused research and careful decision-making. In the words of Grasso, students have problems because they commit the mistake of talking about things that are not part of the problem itself. Students focus on things that they cannot solve rather than things possible to investigate. At the University of El Salvador, the description of the problem has been a hard task for students from previous year to this time, as stated by Sosa, 2020. She expresses how sometimes students tend just to write what comes to their minds as a concept of the phenomenon, but they do not contextualize the problem so that they can after provide a definition of it. As suggested by Villeda de Trigueros, 2015, the description of the problem must include information from other research studies as well as the origin or history of it. All the data collected must be tabulated and shown to show the actual situation of the problem. Then we have the other variable, which is action research objectives. Action research objectives are the concise description of the goals which summarize the accomplished results expectation for the project which may work as the study guidance. In the words of Grasso, students have problems elaborating objectives because they tend to mix their personal objectives with the research objectives. Sosa, 2020, said that common problems that students face when making objectives are to limit the scope of the investigation, to express only one goal in the objective, and to relate them accurately. And another frequent error consists on formulating the general objective without taking into account the research question. Finally, a hypothesis of action represents what the researchers expect to find in a study. Many students tend to confuse a hypothesis of action with a classic hypothesis. They do not promote a solution or a change in the population they are to investigate, as remarked by Sosa, 2020. Students have already written incorrectly their objectives, and as a result, their hypothesis will be wrong. Some students tend to provide solutions, however, they are not viable to be applied, or they are not significant enough. Many students have problems because they do know the structure of an action hypothesis. It is remarkable to say that both teachers and students are aware of this problem of constructing the statement of a research project. And to deal with it, students tend to look for information in different web pages, and they tend to ask teachers for meetings so that they can clarify certain doubt. On the other hand, teachers provide students previous research projects so that they can have a guide and they can follow the structures they must utilize. Now, I'm going to provide some of the solutions that helped Seminar 2 students construct their statement of the problem. To state the problem, Seminar 2 students utilized a checklist to choose the most suitable problem. To describe the action research problem, they implemented the 5 whys method to include the essential. To build the action research objectives, they follow structure models which present how to construct the general and the specific objectives. Finally, to create a hypothesis of action, Seminar 2 students learn to transform the general objective into a hypothesis of action.
Let's start with Chapter 3, Methodological Design, in which the researchers describe all the phases followed in the chapter, such as the paradigm design, a detailed description of the environment, and the tools used for data recompilation. 3.1 Description of the environment. This research project was carried out with the use of the qualitative paradigm to gather suitable data. The research project was carried out in the French Language Department, Western Multidisciplinary Campus of the Universidad of El Salvador, located in Avenida Fray Felipe de Jesús Moraga Sur Santa Ana, during the Seminar 2 of the 5th year of the Major Licenciatura en Idioma Inglés Opción Enseñanza. The project was carried out online due to the quarantine to prevent COVID-19 declared by the government. 3.2 Units of observation. To be part of the research project, students had to fulfill was to have already conducted an action research previously, to have access to internet and an electronic device to be part of the study online. 3.3 Sampling procedure. The research project was carried out considering a population of 90 students enrolled in Seminar 2. Since the population was too big, the researchers selected a sample which was composed of 49 students of the Seminar 2 group. 3.4 Operationalization of the variables. The general objective is to enhance Seminar 2 students' ability to write the statement of the problem of action research during semester 2 2020 at the Universidad of El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente. The specific objective: A. To strengthen Seminar 2 students' capacity to describe the action research problem during semester 2 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente. B. To boost Seminar 2 students' performance on writing action research objectives during semester 2 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente. C. To improve Seminar 2 students' ability to build action research hypotheses during semester 2 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente. 3.5 Research techniques. An interview was addressed to the teacher in charge of teaching Seminar 2 Group 1. A questionnaire addressed to Seminar 2 Group 1. A production task for students so that they can gather reading material from students to be analyzed by the researchers. 3.6 The methods to analyze the information. The researchers order the data according to the objectives and the indicators. The research team used the program Microsoft Excel 2016 to design different graphs to make precise comparison and contrast. They created the graph from the questionnaires and structure observation checklist. 3.7 Validity and reliability of data collection instruments. Before the data collection takes place, the researchers make sure that the tools will prepare by validating the data collection instruments, right? So for doing so, the researchers requested the help of 3 different experts in the field of doing research to obtain recommendations to improve the instruments and design the final version of the tools. The researchers provided the necessary time to develop the tools. 3.8 Ethical aspects. Throughout the development of this research study, the researchers took into account certain ethical aspects to protect the participants' integrity, to make them feel confident to participate, and to make this investigation a scientific process, right? Such as minimizing the risk of harm. The researchers didn't cause physical harm and physical distress to participants. The intention of this research study was not to make the target population being studied feel uncomfortable or in social disadvantage, right? We consider all the documents and all the things that we did in privacy and in anonymity. With the obtaining informed consent, the researchers always explain the participant the objectives of the research and the different tools that we used. We provide the right to withdraw. All the participants of this research study had the right to withdraw at any stage in the research process. We avoid deceptive practices. The researchers guarantee that all the participants in the research study will not deceive in the objectivity. The design, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of the data collected of the research study didn't affect by the researchers' bias. The timeline. In the timeline, we started the process or the project on March 2020 and then ended out on October 2020. According to the budget, the whole budget was $4,170.
Chapter 4. Analysis and Interpretation of Data. As the general objective, researchers said, was to enhance Seminar 2 students' ability to write the statement of the problem during Semester 2 2020 at Universidad El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente, the researchers constructed different tools, composed a questionnaire and a production task for students, interview for the teacher, and a checklist in order to observe the production task. The different variables to be investigated are the description of the problem, the statement of the problem, action research objective, and hypothesis of action. The researchers consider convenient to analyze and organize the data based on the order of the objectives. The variable statement of the problem encompasses two different indicators, which are getting stuck and hesitated. The 33% of the students stated through the questionnaire that they get stuck because they don't know about what to write in the statement of the problem, when the 67% of students stated that they hesitate or go around the bushes when writing the statement of the problem. However, during the intervention, only the 17% of students kept on having that problem. How did they get to that? Okay, in the first intervention, the researchers provided an explanation about the concept of the statement of the problem. They also provided all the parts that are encompassed in the statement of the problem, which are description of the problem, research question, research objectives, hypothesis, justification, and the scope of investigation. Also, they applied an instrument, which is the checklist. The second variable, the description of the problem, encompasses two different indicators, which are not delineating the problem and talking about things that are not part of the problem itself. The 50% of students stated that their accuracy regarding to delineating the description of the problem is below standards. However, during the intervention, the researchers could find out that only the 17% of students kept on having that problem. How did they get to that? Through the second intervention, the researchers explained about the description of the problem. They also provided a method of the 5 whys to discern if the fundamental data is included in the description of the problem. The third variable to be analyzed is the action research objectives, which encompasses 3 indicators, which are objective structure, question objective structure, and objective-objective relation. Before the induction, the 41% of students showed accuracy when composing the objectives regarding to objective structure. Before the induction, also, only the 33% of students were able to have a great relationship between the general objective and the research question, and only the 33% of students before the induction were able to show an accurate relation among the specific objectives and the general objective. But after the induction, the 89% of students were able to compose accurately the objectives regarding to objective structures. The 67% of students were able to show an accurate relationship between the general objective and the research question, and the 83% of students were able to show relationship among the specific objectives and the general objective. How did they get to that? In the second intervention, the researchers provided the different concepts of the objectives, their characteristics, and the different types of objectives. Second, they provided a strategy based on a structure model. Also, they provided a time to practice. Third, they provided a session of analysis in which they analyzed the relationship between the general objective and the research question. Also, they provided a session of analysis in which they analyzed the general and specific objectives relation. Finally, they have a last session of analysis in which a check-in time was implemented. The last variable, hypothesis of action, encompasses two different indicators, which are confusing the hypothesis of action with other type or with a classic hypothesis, and having problems elaborating the hypothesis of action. Before the induction, the 83% of students confused the hypothesis of action with a classic hypothesis. On the other hand, after the induction, only the 17% of students kept on having that problem. How did they get to that? Through the third and last intervention, the researchers provided definition about the hypothesis of action. Second, they provided a strategy based on the composition. They provided a session of analysis by giving some examples, and finally they provided a session of analysis based on a practice time.
Now in our final chapter of our research project, which is Chapter 5, Conclusions and Recommendations. The following information represents the variables: statement of the problem, description of the problem, action research objectives, and hypothesis of action. And to come up with the following conclusions, first, the researchers observed students' ability to write the statement of the problem and the indicators getting stuck and hesitation. Second, they analyzed the students' capacity to describe the action research problem and the indicators, not delineating the problem and talking about things that are not part of the problem itself. Third, they verified students' composition on writing the action research objectives and the indicators, incorrect general objective composition, and incorrect specific objectives composition. Finally, researchers studied students' ability to build a hypothesis of action and the indicators, confusing the hypothesis of action with a classic hypothesis and having problems elaborating it. So the first conclusion starts off with the general objective, which says to enhance Seminar 2 students' ability to write the statement of the problem of action research projects during Semester 2 2020 at Universidad del Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente, which was traced into a research question that says like this: how can Seminar 2 students enhance their ability to write the statement of the problem of action research projects during Semester 2 2020 at Universidad del Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente? So in this case, Seminar 2 students could enhance their ability to write the statement of the problem of their action research projects by being exposed to a variety of explanations about the statement of the problem, and at the same time making use of checklists in which they are going to choose the most suitable problem to investigate. Furthermore, researchers provided students with some time for them to practice on writing the statement of the problem, and in this way, students could reinforce their knowledge and their abilities to elaborate the statement of the problem. For the second conclusion, we have the specific objective that says to strengthen Seminar 2 students' capacity to describe the action research problem during Semester 2 2020 at Universidad del Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente, that was traced for the research question that says how can Seminar 2 students strengthen their capacity to describe the action research problem during Semester 2 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente. Well, Seminar 2 students could strengthen their capacity to describe the action research problem by studying a precise and concise concept of the description of the problem and information which guides them to learn the structure and its proper construction as well. Besides, there is something very important and very vital that students implemented in their practice, that was the 5 whys method, so that they could discern if the fundamental data was being included in their descriptions. And it is also important to highlight that students could look for exemplification and time to practice from researchers so that they could ameliorate their description of the problem. we have the conclusion number 2, which is 5.1.3, that starts off from the specific objective to boost Seminar 2 students' performance on writing action research objectives during Semester 2, 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente. That was also traced into the research question that says, how can Seminar 2 students boost their performance on writing action research objectives during Semester 2, 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Disciplinaria de Occidente? Well, in this case, Seminar 2 students could boost their performance on writing research objectives by updating their knowledge, by cultivating their knowledge on the content and on the features that objectives, in this case research objectives, require. In this case, students had to focus on structure models for the elaboration or the construction of general objectives and specific objectives, and also students had to be provided with important information that kept instructions and practices very clear and simple for them to write their own objectives. And they could ask for practice checking to verify their progress that they had made throughout the time that was given to them. It was also essential that students acknowledge the importance of objective question relation and objective with objective relation to know the role of the objectives in a research project. The following conclusion is based on the third specific objective, that is, to improve Seminar 2 students' ability to build action research hypotheses during Semester 1, 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente, which is also traced into a research question that says, how can Seminar 2 students improve their ability to build an action research hypothesis during Semester 2, 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente? Well, Seminar 2 students can improve their ability to write or to build an accurate action research hypothesis by being provided with information that explains and simplifies the process and the explanation of what a hypothesis of action is, how it is constructed, and how the general objective can be transformed into a hypothesis of action. Also, students had the time to practice and to make use of examples of hypotheses of action provided by teachers so that they can have an acquainted or a better understanding of the construction of the hypothesis of action. And the last conclusion we have is 5.1.5. That starts off with the hypothesis of our action research project that states as following: that the implementation of an induction to action research can help students to enhance their ability to write the statement of the problem of action research projects during Semester 2, 2020 at Universidad de El Salvador, Facultad Multidisciplinaria de Occidente, which at the end was a very good hypothesis because it is completely true, because the results of the different activities that were carried out throughout the interventions were very positive, making while researchers were making sure that these interventions contributed to help students consolidate their knowledge and the information and the performance of the writing of the statement of the problem. Not only the statement of the problem, but each detail that forms part of this specific chapter. And as it was expressed in each of the before mentioned conclusions, it can be seen that it was very, very helpful and meaningful for each of the students that were in the interventions. And the last but not least part of our research project is the area of recommendations. So the first very useful recommendation is to provide explanations about the statement of the problem and what it consists on. Teachers should also provide students with checklists for them to select the most appropriate research problem to investigate by answering questions like, does the problem address a gap in knowledge? Is the problem or is the approach towards solving the problem ethical enough? Or does the problem lead to further research? Moreover, the explanation of the statement of the problem and its parts is very essential, as it encourages students to notice the structure of it, and also teachers should provide practice checking time. A second very useful recommendation is for teachers to provide students with explanation about the description of the problem and how it is constructed, how it is formed. It is also very important to provide the 5 whys method, that it is asking the following questions, which are: what is the problem, who is experiencing the problem, where is the problem taking place, when did the problem start, and why is the problem happening, with which students can have a better understanding and can corroborate if they are including all the necessary aspects in their description of the problem, all the necessary parts that this section must include. Also, it is recommended as well to provide students with time to practice on the description of the problem to consolidate their learning. Another very useful recommendation is for teachers to provide students with general content about the objectives, talking about concepts and characteristics about them. Likewise, they should be provided with really important information based on the structure models of the general objective and about the specific objectives, so that students can have an idea of what to change, what area is going to be studied, the time and the place of the objectives. Also, let's not leave aside that it is very important to facilitate practice time for students, or practice checking time in this case. Moreover, the objective question relation and objective-objective relation encourages students to realize the role of the objectives and to conceptualize them. Finally, researchers recommend teachers to explain to students what a hypothesis of action is and how it is constructed. One of the most easiest and most important processes to teach students is the transformation of the general objective into the hypothesis of action. Moreover, teachers should provide them with lots of practice and lots of examples of hypotheses of actions for students to become familiar with the transformation and with the elaboration of this section. If this recommendation is followed, the improvement of students' ability to write accurate hypotheses or structured hypotheses is going to be assured. We have come to an end to our research project presentation. Thank you very much for watching.